This is the Capitol Rundown.
The border controversy has moved all the way into Grand Rapids from Texas, and this one is Mr. Trump really taking advantage politically of an issue which is resonating with people.
When it comes to constitutional rights, we gain rights over time. That is the trajectory of how America has always operated in our courts.
It's all straight ahead. The Capitol Rundown starts now.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Sherry Jones, and we're starting off this morning with the Supreme Court hearing arguments Tuesday on the first abortion case since it overturned Roe v. Wade 2 years ago. And President Joe Biden has recruited Michigan Democrats to make their voices heard on the issue. Our Washington correspondent Maddie Beer-Temple reports on how this case could impact access to the abortion pill.
Anti-abortion groups are challenging the FDA's relaxed rules on the abortion pill that have made it easier to access in recent years. Protesters were back on the steps of the Supreme Court.
And people deserve access to it.
For the first abortion case since the Dobbs decision, the Alliance for Hippocratic Medicine says the FDA's guidelines are unsafe. They allow the abortion drug mifepristone to be sent by mail and without an in-person doctor's visit.
Without ever having been checked by a doctor for life-threatening conditions. That's reckless.
The alliance is made up of medical groups that oppose abortion. They're asking the High Court to limit access to the drug.
Without question, the FDA's actions have made taking chemical abortion drugs less safe.
But lawyers for the drug maker say research shows it is safe.
The FDA acted on an extensive body of evidence.
The Biden administration defended the FDA in court, saying opponents lack legal standing to bring the case because they aren't harmed by the FDA's rules.
We don't think they come within 100 miles of the kind of circumstances this court has previously identified.
The court seemed concerned that the case could have broader impacts on how many government agencies do their business. This is the voice of Justice Neil Gorsuch.
And this case seems like a prime example of turning what could be a small lawsuit into a nationwide legislative assembly on an FDA rule or any other federal government action.
A decision on the case is expected this summer. In Washington, I'm Maddie Beer-Temple.
The Biden-Harris campaign sent out statements from Michigan Democrats on Tuesday who oppose banning mifepristone. One of them is Attorney General Dana Nessel. Nessel says that efforts to undo reproductive rights through the Supreme Court would affect Michiganders. In 2022, about 60% of voters said yes on Prop 3, casting their ballots in support of that measure that made abortion and other reproductive services a state constitutional right. Dana Nessel says that progress could be upended. She says more than half of all abortions in the state are through medication.
And so if, the Supreme Court rules as I think they're expected to, based on how conservative they are, based on the 3 Trump appointees who vowed to use any means at their disposal to eliminate abortion, it could mean for a substantial number of Michiganders that they don't have the ability to obtain safe and legal abortions at all in our state anymore. So people should be very, very concerned.
The Attorney General says the concept of federalism, that federal law supersedes state law when the two are at odds, would leave Michigan with few options if that were to happen.
When it comes to constitutional rights, we gain rights over time. That is the trajectory of how America has always operated in our courts, is that people gain more and more rights. This is a very dark reversal of that trend, where now, because of the Trump appointees on the court, we have fewer and fewer rights every year instead of gaining rights as we have traditionally done.
Well, there's yet another person running for the seat that will be left vacant by Debbie Stabenow in the U.S. Senate. Republican Rebecca Curran thinks she should be the next U.S. Senator from Michigan, and she talked about that to The Rundown. That conversation and a lot more when we come back. Welcome back. One of the newest candidates to announce a run for the soon-to-be open U.S. Senate seat for Michigan is Rebecca Curran. The Ottawa County Commissioner is running for the Republican nomination. She sat down with The Rundown's Jorma Duran to talk about why.
It's a pretty big jump from County Commissioner to U.S. Senate.
Correct. I would agree with that. So I really like to follow my faith. And when I feel led to do something, I try to obey what that calling is. And I felt like this was a calling for me to do. It's not something I would have normally selected for myself. But, you know, when you feel led to do something, you do it.
What were you feeling? What was the motivation? What's wrong?
Well, there's a lot of things wrong in politics right now. I feel that our country is incredibly divided at the moment. I feel like we do have enemies of our nation, and they're dividing us all. Mm-hmm. And instead of bringing the people together to fight a common enemy, they're dividing us to make it so they can easily win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've read something that you've said that you want to bring people together.
Yes, I do.
How? Because right now, as you pointed out, we're in some divided parts, and
Yes.
I'm assuming that, and I'm just going to say this, your leader, Donald Trump, is not making it easy to not get together. So how are you going to bring us all together?
So I believe that God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. It's so we can listen to one another. I believe that oftentimes there's validity to both sides of the thought process, or the thought coin, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And I think when you give people an opportunity to be heard and validated, and you work together to try to find solutions, that goes places.
So let's talk about some of your priorities.
Yeah.
So what's a big deal? What do you want to get in there and try to change or tweak or whatnot?
My kind of true north is to always stay focused on how is this going to affect the people of Michigan, and focusing my efforts and listening to how it's going to affect them, and then making policy decisions and choices based on what I hear from people. So that is my objective, number one, first and foremost, and then to try to encourage people to, and media for that matter, to make sure that we're not participating in divisive behavior. So making sure that we're not calling names, making sure that we're, you know, and encouraging them with my own actions, because I feel that it's important to be the change that you want to see. Mm-hmm.
Well, coming up, we'll bring you the second part of Jorma's conversation with Rebecca Curran, including what the Republican candidate thinks about the situation on America's southern border. That and much more coming up next. Welcome back. Republican and Ottawa County Commissioner Rebecca Curran wants to be the next United States Senator for Michigan. She talked to the Rundown's Jorma Durand about why. Here's the second part of their conversation, including what issues she thinks need to be dealt with first.
Illegal immigration is very high on everyone's radar at the moment, in addition to the economy. We have to ensure that we stop printing money and lower our costs down in Washington, D.C., stop spending money, and allow people to live so they can, you know, put gas in their car, put groceries in their fridge that is not exorbitantly expensive.
Mm-hmm. In terms of inflation, I know Republicans all the time say, well, put me in office and we're going to lower inflation, but we all know you can't just go in there and all of a sudden prices are going to drop. How will prices going to drop? If you're elected and let's just say President Trump's elected, how are all of a sudden our prices going to drop?
So I will tell you that when it comes to inflation, the number one thing that drives up inflation is the printing of money. Mm-hmm. So the Federal Reserve has to be reined in at the federal level, and we have to not allow them to print money. We also have to reduce spending. So how am I going to affect that? Well, number one, I'm not going to vote on bills that increase spending.
Right. Let's talk about the border then. It is a big deal, huge deal.
Yes.
Not really, or is it, in your opinion, is it impacting Michigan? It seems like kind of a far away problem. Why is that such a big deal for you?
So I think that when it comes to our border, we have to have legal immigration. Mm-hmm. Right now, we are having an influx of people, and that is literally, in my mind, purposeful.
Okay.
And it is to create additional census numbers to help transform the congressional seats in the districts.
Yeah, but they're not able to legally vote, so it doesn't matter.
They're counted in the census, sir.
Yeah, but they're not voting. So
it doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, but how is that going to influence a political side or one or the other?
Because if you get an extra Democrat seat, then you're influencing the House.
What is your answer then? How do you, Aside from stopping all people from the border, how do you fix the immigration process?
At the end of the day, there should be legal immigration. This is not legal immigration.
Okay, so what's the plan?
So the plan is the border needs to be shut, the illegal immigration needs to end, and then Congress needs to create and work through and continue legal immigration processes.
Well, coming up next on The Rundown, our Capitol correspondent Tim Skubic will be here to give us his take on what's happening in Michigan politics. Don't go away. But first, voters in Michigan are getting mailers that are causing a little bit of confusion on their registration status. We'll explain when the Capitol Rundown returns. Welcome back. Voter registration forms are appearing in mailboxes around the state, and not from local election officials. Rather, national voter advocacy groups and local clerks are saying it's causing confusion. The Rundown's Josh Sanchez has the story.
While there may be some confusion, we've helped register hundreds of thousands of Michiganders in recent years, and that's a great thing.
Tom Lopatch is the president of DC-based groups, Voter Participation Center, and the Center for Voter Information. Both groups have sent out more than 450,000 mailers in the state over the last month from a Lansing P.O. box. Some included voter registration applications, complete with an address to local clerks. But who gets the mail?
We go out and get commercial data files to identify people, and then we remove those who are on the voter file, who are already registered.
Lopatch says the names of recently deceased voters and common pet names are also removed from their mailing list. But City of Lansing clerk Chris Swope says those applications still get in the hands of already registered voters.
We do have a lot of people that just get it, fill it out, and send it in, so it causes a lot of staff time for us. The ones that we do get back, I would say over 90% are people that are already registered at that same address.
Each application comes with disclaimers that Lopatch says explains where it came from and encourages already registered voters to recycle the form. East Lansing clerk Marie Wicks got the letter herself and says the disclaimers could be bolder. Getting the form at the same time that absentee ballots are sent out is not helping the issue either.
We are already so tense around elections that, again, while well-intended, this muddies the water unnecessarily.
Once the forms are filled out, they head back to the clerk's office.
The elections office then does their due diligence to ensure it is somebody who should be registered, and again prevent false voter registrations from being submitted.
It's happening in Jackson as well, and County Clerk Sierra Soul says resources are stretched.
If they're having to backtrack or double check things, this can certainly slow down our already very taxed local clerks and county clerks.
Well, both President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump are making moves in Michigan as they try to persuade voters ahead of the November election. The Rundown's Jerma Duran talked to our Capitol correspondent Tim Skubic to get his take.
It's time to get updated politically here in the state of Michigan, and nobody better than this guy right here, Tim Skubic, to help us out. Tim, a number of Biden administration officials were recently here in Michigan for various reasons, and one I wanted to get more information about involves the announcement of more than $1 billion for nuclear energy. What's this all about?
Well, we have a mothballed Palisade plant over on the west side of the state. This is a good point. This is in the context of the visit that Ms. Granholm made to the state along with the Labor Secretary at the UAW Local 652 earlier this week that we covered, in which they were also announcing a training program for future car assembly line workers to work on electric vehicles. And so this is also part of that green energy package as the Biden administration tries to nudge the motoring public in the direction of EVs. Now, the interesting thing about this story is that it had the feel of a campaign visit. In fact, I joked that the only thing missing from Governor Granholm's speech was, "You'll be blown away in 5 years," which was one of her famous lines in a State of the State message way back when.
Well, there will be a campaign stop next week. Donald Trump's coming to Michigan. It sounds like he's going to focus his stop on the border, the southern border. What do you know?
Absolutely. The border controversy has moved all the way into Grand Rapids from Texas, and this one is Mr. Trump really taking advantage politically of an issue which is resonating with people. Surprisingly, in the last 6 or 8 months, the polling data has shown that immigration has moved up from really maybe number 7 or 8 on the list to number 1 or 2, depending on the poll. And Mr. Trump is in Grand Rapids to highlight the fact that a immigrant who was exported from the country and then came back on his own actually committed a murder and killed his girlfriend. So Mr. Trump will be here to call this the Biden bloodbath and try to make some political hay with the voters on this issue.
Tim, it's always great to see and hear from you. We appreciate the updates.
That's all right, no charge.
Only Tim. Coming up on the rundown, the Republican National Committee filed a lawsuit against a Michigan official. We'll tell you more when the Capitol Rundown returns. Welcome back. The Republican National Committee is suing Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, saying she secretly tried to circumvent Michigan's absentee voting safeguards. They say she issued secret instructions to local election officials before the February 2024 presidential primary election that they must presume the validity of an absentee voter's signature rather than verifying it against a signature on file, as is required by the Constitution. They say she issued these instructions not through any public guidance, but through direct communications with local election officials outside the public eye. There has not been a response from the Secretary of State so far. And if you're interested in getting more political news from Michigan and Washington, D.C., we have just the thing for you. You can sign up for our Capitol Rundown newsletter. It's just one email each week, and you can get it by pointing your cell phone. That's your camera on your phone at the screen right now. It will take you to the sign-up page, or you can head to WLNS.com/newsletters. And that's our show for this week. Thanks for watching the Capitol Rundown.